All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host. And today, Matt and I are joined by Jordan Blair, who is running up the Construction Industry Education Foundation. And we're going to dive just right into it. And we'll everyone will be hearing your bio here on the front end of this, Jordan, and all of your accolades, your credentials. But I guess, first question that I want to start with is how in the world did you, I guess, start this up, get involved with the Construction Industry Education Foundation?
Yeah, so it was by happen chance. I have a passion for youth development. It took me a little while to realize that. Started obviously in government and kind of got a little disassociated or just didn't quite fall in love with it after I had my college degree, right? So worked for a private high school in town, Boys and Girls Club for a little bit, and then really through a great mentorship relationship. The Sacramento Regional Builders Exchange had a new CEO that was a really good mentor to me. And he had made an offer to help with their communications team. And so I came over for what I thought was going to be a 6-month journey. And that was my agreement up front. And last month was 7 years. So I think, the biggest reason why I've stayed that long, SRBX was founded in 1901. So they're, 121 years old. They have a long, rich history with contractors. The foundation was started to get more kids into the trades, but really the social impact that we've been seeing, kids that didn't see opportunities for themselves to be able to have a very rewarding lifestyle that comes with the opportunity. I think that's really what's kept me going is seeing the light kind of click with a lot of these kids as they get into the trades.
It's really cool, man. I spent some time on the various websites and the info you sent ahead of time, so thank you for that. But like I was mentioning a bit, before we hit record here, Dylan and I are constantly talking about how to get kids interested in the trades, how to rebuild our farm clubs and just make the trades cool again. And I didn't know organizations like yours existed, to be honest with you, until I happened across you on LinkedIn. So what you guys are doing is just, in my book, it's like top of the stack awesome. So thank you, first of all.
Yeah, thank you guys for reaching out, and thank goodness for LinkedIn for connecting people these days, right?
For sure. So the first thing that really caught my eye when looking over everything was this design build competition that you guys hold it, and it sounds like you've done a couple of them now. Can you kind of give us a round view of that, how that works and what it looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a short preface to that, I will say, we've been engaged since 1986 in workforce development, first through SRBX, now through the Construction Industry Education Foundation, which is an independent 501c3, but still has that strong relationship in the Sacramento region. And so the design build competition, wasn't needed necessarily 40 years ago. Your average woodshop teacher was retiring early from the industry, going into the classroom, and brought great industry connections with them. That slowly started changing, right? And especially in the mid 90s, you had this huge push, college prep. You even saw a lot of high school guidance counselors start becoming almost college counselors and guiding them in that direction. And so you lost, if you had a kid that was really excited about going into the industry or that prospect, there was no one to help champion or coach them or help get them into the trades or the built environment, architecture, engineering, construction management, the trades, the same way that there was with college. So 1986, we started the design build competition in Sacramento. And the purpose is a 4-month-long program that challenges kids to have the opportunity to design and build a 96 plus square foot structure. The rules have changed a little bit over time. Some of them are doing tiny homes for homeless veterans, tiny home for, here in Northern California, the campfire survivors from a few years ago, storage sheds for regional nonprofits. You guys know, I'm sure where you are as well, it is next to impossible to get kids under the age of 18 into an active internship on a construction job site. Office, absolutely. But if someone's really interested in the trades, that's a tough one, and you need to be able to give them some hands-on experience. So we've kind of found design build is the best, next best thing that we can do. So kind of the quick overview: January, they spend the month designing documents for their structure. We connect them with architectural mentors if needed. During the month of February, we have, about 35 architectural firms that volunteer their time to review them as if they're a local planning commission, planning council, return them redline to the students. We try and get corporate sponsors for each of the team that underwrite it. So there's no cost to any student, no cost to any school to participate in the program. And then in April this year, for the first time, we hosted a design build competition down in Orange County, California. And then last week we held our 37th one up here in Sacramento as well.
That is awesome, man. And with high school kids, it's fascinating to me that you guys are doing this. We try. I'm in southeastern Michigan, Detroit area, and there's no organization like this to my knowledge. So, you touched on internships. We have tried to team up with local high schools and try to get kids interested. We started an internship program at my company this year. It just hasn't panned out, but I want to touch on something you already kind of hit on. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was, we really started seeing a shift in focus, and shop classes started going away and home ec classes started going away. And there was this, like you said, this huge push for college or nothing, right? College or you're going to be homeless mentality. And I got to preface this with, you have a huge, impressive educational background, right? You have a bachelor's, a couple master's degrees. I think you're working on your PhD. So from your mind, what caused that transition? And then the second part of my question is, how do you see we fix it? From a highly educated man like yourself, how do you see that we regain that push for the right kids into the trades?
Yeah. So I want to be clear, I'm not placing blame anywhere. And I don't think that this is a zero-sum strategy, because neither of those are going to get us anywhere in helping solve this problem. But somewhere along the way, we became more excited about the doctor and nurse that works in the hospital than the person that designed, engineered, and built the hospital that's making all those amazing things happen. So, as you mentioned, I went to 3 different schools between undergrad and master's and working on my doctorate now. And if you think of what their admissions departments have in their budget to be able to go out to schools and work with counselors and to be, branding themselves, right? I mean, I don't know what that number is. I'm sure that it's available somewhere, but it's in the significant, probably maybe even the billions of dollars per year when you really add up all of the colleges across the nation. And I kind of joke, you spell CIFPARTNER, partner, right? Like, the only way that we're going to be able to do this is if we all start collectively working together and not push back, but provide this opportunity where we say, look, college is amazing, and we need that as well. We need architects, we need engineers in the built environment. We need, construction managers that have that 2 or 4 year background. But we also need to look at skilled trades and say that's a 3 to 5 year training program in most cases. So why do we place this emphasis on this 4-year college training program, which I'm going to say I didn't learn too much about budgeting along the way. My favorite instructors along the way were the adjuncts, right? The city managers that were coming in and teaching after working an 8-to-5 job. I loved my full-time professors, don't get me wrong there. But what I remember now, 15, 20 years past undergrad is those opportunities of the real world experience. So there's this question of collectiveness, right? And there's several organizations that are starting to work nationally. I think we have to recognize none of us have the best answer. I think, how do we all kind of weave this together? And then, for us, we're looking at everyone at the local level and saying, hey, if you guys want to host a design build competition, let's chat. Let's figure out how to make this work. We don't know how to make it work yet, right? We've just been in California, but we will make it work because it's about the kids. It's about the mission of the kids. There's been a couple really good articles, I think, in the last 2 weeks or so about as college, pricing themselves out of the return, right? Yes, people that go to college, traditionally and statistically make more money, but now that you're seeing the payback, student loans, interest, everything, that's really offset. And I'm sure that we all know a couple superintendents out there that don't have a college education that are making $200,000, even $300,000 a year now. And the quality of life, they have their trucks, they have their boats, they're able to make their kids t-ball games at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. So I think we're starting to see a little bit of that mentality shift, but it's really having people tell the real world experience and be proud of being a contractor. That's the first thing, is if everyone knows the contractor, they're much more likely to support their kids becoming a contractor as well.
Absolutely, man. And I'm an engineer, so I went to school for all that, and design buildings and a lot of that in the hospital side of it too. So for Seeing that and the payoffs and the paybacks for a lot of that is pretty incredible. And I think COVID accelerated a lot of this where, a big part of going to college was about connecting with people, right? Meeting people, getting that whole social side of it, the networking piece of it, in some ways, and especially for like, MBA programs and things like that, when you're going to try to do business school and it's virtual, kind of defeats the purpose of going to some of these big name, business programs, like, having a Columbia or USC or whatever it might be degree when you didn't actually go there in person and do all the networking, right. Kind of defeats the purpose of paying 50 grand a year for, what's the equivalent of like YouTube, like,
yeah.
These,
I always joke USC is the University of Social Connections. So definitely from that aspect, it was well worth it. But
yeah, it's who you know, and a lot of that too, when we look at construction, right, that's a big part of what we do, right? And
a very tight-knit community. I mean, there's a lot of complexity to it, but it's still a very handshake, back of the napkin, brainstorming organization. You don't want to build or industry. You don't want to burn bridges, because who you're working with today could very well be who you're working with in another 2 or 3 years from now.
And the guy that you're working next to could be your client in 2 years.
Or your boss, yeah, either way.
But in that relationship piece and, what you've been doing it with CIE. So I want to give everybody a few stats here that in 21, 22, and you might have some updates to what these numbers are. But over the last year, 3,500 students, again, primarily in California, and primarily high schools, will be served. So 3,500 kids is the impact, 100 grand in scholarships, 550 supporting companies, and you've got some big names on your that people know in the construction community, like, DPR, McCarthy, Swinnerton, a lot of other big names that are in here. And I want to just kind of highlight that 250 volunteers and 150 schools served. So my, I guess, question out of this is, in the schools that you're serving, well, probably a two-parter, how receptive have they been to it, and kind of the growth rate that you've seen in these schools, right? From the ones that have done it, how well was it received? And then, kind of the growth and wildfire that it might've had, from a good program.
Yeah. So I will say, first and foremost, we always want to make sure this is about the student's experience. Personally, I mean, I shouldn't say this with the CIF branded shirt. If a kid goes through one of our programs and says, hey, you know what, my experience with the built environment wasn't quite there, I still consider that a personal win, because we were hopefully able to help them make one step closer to what their career goal is. But when we're kind of looking beyond that human aspect and the purpose and the mission of our organization, we really exploded during COVID, and that wasn't our intention. We were, heading up in middle of March 2020, getting ready to launch our first SoCal design builds with CIEF, and getting ready to head into our 35th design build up in NorCal, I guess. And basically in 6 days had to rewrite what that was going to look like, because we knew that people weren't going to be able to be there in person. So the number of woodshop teachers that reached out and said, I've never even hosted a Zoom class. How am I supposed to teach a hands-on woodshop class on Zoom? We basically said, what do you need? So we were delivering balsa wood. We were sending and shipping, packages so that kids could build small stuff on Zoom together, so that they just still had the same relationship with the teachers and relationship with each other during what was a pretty dark time. And whether craftsmanship is putting together 2x4s or balsa wood, we tried to make the best that we could. We did a lot of online OSHA 10 training during that time. And met a lot of instructors who were saying, hey, you know what, when I struggled, you were able to get industry into my online classroom. And so that's why we really saw, I think, a number of schools kind of explode this last year of ones that really wanted to get engaged. We haven't put together an expansion plan really beyond what people have reached out to us about. So we are launching in Dallas and Houston this, I think, July 1 this next year. And we've been asked by communities and other organizations in the, Phoenix, Denver, North Carolina, New Hampshire areas. And we're all having those conversations as well. As long as it stays about the kids and the mission, we're all about, going to wherever people will have us. And, we don't focus necessarily on the socioeconomic background of a school or the geographic region, whether they're an urban school or suburban school. By happen chance last year, I think about 63% came from Title I schools. So they received free or reduced lunch meal programs from the federal government. And I think close to that number is a diversity aspect as well. We do kind of start a little bit on our Create mentoring program, which is really tied down to Northern California versus Design Build that's really growing. And that one, we introduce kids to the totality of the built environment. We think if you want to be an architect, you need to know how your plans are going to be read in the field one day. If you're going to be out in the field, you need to know some of the thought process that went into those plans, because humans aren't perfect and plans always seem to have something that we're going to run into, and problem solving needs to be along the way. So, CREATE is an acronym: construction, redevelopment, engineering, architecture, trades, education. And these are high school kids. So we walk them through the very basics of an RFP. How do you do a client needs assessment? How do you do a cost estimate, site planning, engineering cut sections? How do you put together a team, set of resumes and proposal, and then you come together and you present in front of industry judges. So that's really a little bit heavy on our career exploration side. And then the spring program is Design Build, where we put the kids in that really have a little bit more of the hands-on desire. I will say that the way that the kids are able to connect in their local community, who are the nonprofits that need assistance, need storage sheds, one school built a Japanese tea house for a nonprofit tea garden. Another one did like a Dr. Seuss house this year for a children's playground. It's just really cool. And, to see the kids see that end user and build with quality. I mean, they're excited. And to me, they're almost as excited as, a 40-year-old that just built the, $5 billion hospital down the road, maybe even more excited. So, so that's what we want to do. Introduce them, encourage them, provide that bridge into the built environment career opportunities.
So do you inject into the curriculum, or is it strictly an extracurricular after school weekend type program?
So it really depends upon the school. We try to meet every school where we can, as long as it doesn't cost us to, compromise what our mission is. With the Create program, I think they're about 50-50, whether they're run through either an architectural engineering, construction management woodshop class, a couple manufacturing programs as well, right? We're getting into the new, what used to be ROP is now CTE, career technical education. What used to be construction design is now manufacturing. The hot terms reminds me a little bit of, I wasn't alive then, but in 1960s, when you had a number of government departments that became political science, because science was the right terminology. So you're seeing a lot of that interspersed, but you're not seeing a massive change along that way.
Okay. Well, how the heck do we get you to Michigan? I would wholeheartedly help champion this, and we can maybe talk offline too, but I'm serious. I mean, how do we spread this?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the part that we're trying to figure out, because 10 years from now, when someone says I went through Design Build, we want everyone to know that it had the same quality, no matter where they were, whether they're in Michigan, Florida, Texas, New York, California, wherever they are. It's that same kind of standard 4-month program. They got the hands-on experience. They got, again, if someone's going into one aspect of the built environment, we want them to experience the whole thing, so they really know that, how they fit in and how they're part of something greater than themselves. So yeah, if there's organizations, if there's companies that are interested in expanding Design Build into their community, they can absolutely reach out to us. I don't know if our information will be on here or online as well, cie.foundation, or, my email is jblair@cie.foundation, and we'd love to have those conversations. One of the ways that we usually, or have been starting with local communities, is we call it a hands-on trades day. So we take over a local, fairground for a 4-hour, 5-hour block in the morning. We invite local schools to come in. And instead of a job fair where you're standing behind, handing out pamphlets, you're doing a hands-on exploration activity from what your company does. So kids are laying brick, they're, hammering into wood, which for some kids, that's the first time that they've ever picked up a hammer. So you got to remember that aspect as well. We have engineering architectural firms that are doing BIM modeling. We have huge excavators that the kids are able to climb up on. Operating engineers locally bring out simulators that the kids are able to participate in. They're riveting into sheet metal upside down. There's competition aspects of it as well. The goal from that is to get the kids to see, hey, I could get paid to do this. Like, I didn't learn about that from a textbook. Tell me more about this opportunity. Then hopefully we can, pipeline them into a local mentoring program that's available around there, and then ultimately into Design Build as well. And then that's also an opportunity for us to get to meet the companies that are in the local area. And so being able to take the companies, being able to take the schools, that's what our goal is. Let staff stay out of it because staff are expensive and that's not the long-term solution. This is about the kids. But being able to relate, make those partnerships, and then how do we make sure we have enough companies, enough schools, match them, and be able to launch some type of a design build or other competition. We'll mention tradesday.org if anyone wants to take a look at some of the pictures and experiences of previous trade days that we've been involved with.
I will definitely be checking that out, and yeah, I want to help in any way we can. Back to the program, do you have any sort of stats on, so you've got 3,500 kids have gone through this. Do you have any sort of stats on how many of those 3,500 or what percentage maybe actually pursue careers in some sort of trades?
So I'll be super honest, that's the biggest area of growth for us. Up until 3 years ago, our foundation was 2 employees. And so it was everything we could just to provide the services to the kids that were out there. And we've grown pretty rapidly. We grew from about 300 kids per year. I think when I started up to that 3,500, and we'll probably double that in the next 18 months or so based upon the number of schools that are reaching out. 93% of the kids that went through our CREATE program last year said that it impacted their career decision. So in California, and I don't know if this is a national statistic, the average entrance age of an apprenticeship student is 28 years old. So you have about a 10-year gap. So they graduate high school, they go out, they decide they want to do something else. They see a higher entry pay level at another organization, kind of decide that's not for them long-term. Maybe they have a family, they start looking long-term at benefits, and then they come back into the, and that's more on the trades, construction management side. A little bit younger on the architecture engineering side, obviously, because you're traditionally going straight into that after high school. So for us, we're trying to look at how we can shorten that gap, and can we get them straight in if possible. For us, we're looking at, that's probably about a 5-year tracking line, because one, are they able to complete the apprenticeship and then go into a journey position, or where are they on that scale? So we are researching that like crazy right now. The best way that we've been able to do that is following up on LinkedIn to see where they are. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the trades don't place a high importance on LinkedIn. And so I think we're somewhere in the mid 60% right now on conversion rate from what we've been able to track. But we are placing a lot of emphasis on that and should have much better data within the next 12 months or so.
Well, even 60%, that's fantastic. 28 years old, though, is the average age to start an apprenticeship. That is surprising to me.
Yeah,
it's very surprising.
And again, what are they doing for those 10 years that we can track, and then consider the 10 years of lost opportunity to contribute to, a pension or a retirement plan, and what were their Medicare, medical benefits during those 10 years as well after high school. So that's kind of where we are right now, really partnering with schools that have a CTE program and converting kind of that low-hanging fruit into the built environment and making sure we don't lose them first. And then kind of the next tier that we're slowly doing with the expansion as well, as the schools that don't have any opportunity for career education programs. How do we start working with them where we don't have an on-site instructor that can, partner with us? And so that we're exploring that aspect right now.
I like it too, that it's helping people make a decision, right? Whether that construction's for you or not. Either way, it's exposing people to, like, there's more than, doctor, lawyer type of, career paths, or, you go to college just cause, and, you don't really know what you want. So to have the exposure to, like, look, construction's a big world. You could be an architect, engineer, you can, do the 7 different systems that are within these buildings, or you can be in the field, you can, supervise, you can manage projects, you can, heck, be an accountant for some of these things, right? Like, there's so many
pilot.
Yeah, there's so many avenues to go, and technology and the systems, and really everything that goes into construction, that just making people aware of, like, you know, basically any type of job that you want, you can do within a construction company, even if it's marketing or sales, or, they need those people too to help make everything run.
Right. Well, let me ask a question back. Matt, what was it that made you want to go into construction?
So I started off working on residential projects when I was very young, just out of high school. To be honest, the allure was the money.
Mhm.
You know, as a 17, 18-year-old kid making whatever it was back then under the table in cash, you know, that it was impressive. It was a lot of money for me. I had no bills to pay and no responsibilities. So that's what got me in the door. And then I just fell in love with it. And
And did you find it on your own, or did you have any family that was involved with construction?
I had a good friend
Okay.
who was doing it already. He kind of brought me in. None of my family members have ever had any, relationship to the trades. Although my youngest brother has also now kind of followed in my footsteps on the residential side.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, that seems like a lot of it. It's a family or friend that introduces you. And then once you're able to kind of have that support, you run with it.
yeah, and I mean, I'm of the vintage that we still had some shop class and
Mhm.
some, kind of training aspect when I was at least in middle school. I think by the time I got to high school, it was largely gone. But back then, and we've talked about this on the show a lot, here in Michigan, it was always called voc tech or vocational tech, but it was never like a good option, right? It was where the burnouts went. The kids
Yeah.
that were failing school, they'd ship them off to voc tech, and you just wouldn't see them for the second half of every day. And but it was nothing promoted. It certainly wasn't a good thing.
Our mayor here in Sacramento spoke at Design Builds pre-COVID, so 2019, I guess. And he said a great statement, which made me think that we're starting to resonate a little bit better. And it was, every kid that wants to go to college deserves that opportunity. And again, there's a lot of careers that require that. But, we're failing our youth if we're not providing to them the parallel career track opportunities that are out there. And it does feel like in the last couple of years, and like you guys alluded to, it might have been COVID that kind of broke apart some of those social relationships for a little while. That's leading to that. But I mean, I feel much better now than I did 3 years ago. Seeing the kids that are going through the program and how they're entering the built environment.
Well, that's reassuring, because in my neck of the woods, we're having a very hard time building up farm clubs, building up that youthful interest in the trades, regardless of what trade it is.
Yeah.
And in the foreseeable future, that's going to lead to a massive problem if we don't fix it now. I mean, we should have been fixing it 10 years ago.
I was at a event last night, and it was a construction management firm, and their VP for HR said their average employee age right now is 50. And so I said, okay, what's your average retirement age? And she's like, well, it's been varying, but it's been coming down a lot in the last couple of years. So I was like, okay, so you have a 5 to 8 year business plan. Like, how are you investing, for college interns? How are you investing in engaging high school programs? Yes, they don't have that immediate ROI the same way that you can, post a job ad and hopefully you get a response to that, right? This is about an investment. But I think a lot of companies, and I mean, you listed several of them off, right? I mean, we're 99% funded from industry. And they're seeing that it's worth the investment to make sure that there is that pipeline as people are retiring over the next 5, 6, 10 years.
Well, we have to. And
Yeah.
and it's great to have an organization like yours that, a group like my company or these other companies can kind of team up with. And because, for our company in particular, we're small. We're a general contractor. We don't self-perform trade work. So my employment needs or my employee needs are very different. But we work with trade partners who are massive, and I need those guys to have farm clubs. Otherwise, I can't do my job either.
Right.
And to have a group like CIE who's kind of spearheading this, it frankly takes a little bit of load off of our shoulders, which is why I'm so excited to have found you. Because I just don't have time, right? We're a very small organization. I can't do as much as I feel like needs to be done to bolster up this interest. And
Right.
we do some, like I mentioned, we talk to local high schools, we meet with kids, we try and do job shadowing, but it's small scale, right? And to have a group that's doing it, even if it just stays in California, it'll eventually start kind of spreading just through osmosis, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say also important to that is, are you meeting the kids where they're at? So I know one apprenticeship program that we're working with, they had a 36-page manual about how to become an apprentice when I started. And I mean, let's be honest, like Instagram is too long now for some of the kids, right? I mean, they need their TikTok and they're out of there. So, how do we make sure that we sell or make that pitch and meet people really where where they are. I will say it's been a little bit exciting over the last 12 months as well to see the number of non-construction organizations that are starting to get involved, because they have projects that are in the pipeline to come on, and they, as an owner of a project, are starting to say, wait, hold on, how much am I going to have to pay because we have the labor shortage? Now we're paying premium, wages and overtime and all the other aspects that are going into that. So now we even have those that are, on the outer periphery of construction that are starting to get engaged as well, because they see the problem as well.
Yeah, I believe that. And for owners to, because it's hitting them, and it's significant numbers when you start doing overtime and everything else to a project, plus supply chain problems, and this goes to other things too, not just construction, but like truck drivers and suppliers and warehousing and the ability to get materials to a job site and logistics, all those other things, around the periphery of construction, and getting, steel delivered or lumber or any of those things to a job site, matters a lot too. And then another thing that within that is, you mentioned like the average age is coming down. It's for retirement, and a lot of that probably is dealing with, they're getting worked hard to meet these, because there's not the people to help take the load off, and they're just kind of like, I'm assuming that this is it, that they're just like done, and to go out. And then on the other side of that, with COVID, you saw that, throughout all of COVID, construction was about the, one of the few industries that didn't stop, because you can't shut down job sites. Is just not a possibility. So I think that was probably another catalyst in there to see that, hey, you want to work, you want to earn, construction's a good place to go.
Yeah, I will say there's some great local, national, and statewide organizations that really did help to keep construction building during COVID. I know every state's different, and in California, I think a couple of localities changed it that if the building that you were working on, if their industry wasn't open, then you couldn't continue building, which to me seemed a little bit backwards of, if a school's shut down because they're online, then isn't that the time to accelerate projects? So that when the kids could come back to campus, those projects were taken care of and we're onto something else. But that, of course, as you said, alluded to, it's supply chain. Just a whole host of issues that we're going to be working out for quite some time.
So and we'll put this in here. So for anybody that wants to get involved, what's the best way for them to go about this? And not everyone's obviously in California, but for people to get involved or bring it to their local area or to start up any of this stuff, what's kind of the best path forward for firms out there to get involved?
So I will start with two things. One, again, the things that we learned through COVID, right? It doesn't matter, again, if you're in the Midwest, the East Coast, doesn't matter if you're in Brazil or, France. We have online engagement opportunities where we can connect. So to me, the success of a kid going through one of the programs, it takes time, it takes talent, it takes treasure. So if someone has an opportunity that they can get to one of our competitions and serve as a judge for 2 hours, we're all about it. If an organization is able to, financially sponsor a team or a couple teams, I will be honest, when you take, especially what the lumber price is right now, and you multiply that amongst the number of schools and kids that are involved, it's not a cheap program. And that's one of the unfortunate parts. I wish it was much more economical, that we could take it everywhere tomorrow. So if you go to cie.foundation, there is a link there, volunteer form, kind of goes more in depth about all the programs that we have to offer. And then depending upon what the interest is, one of our team members will be able to reach out and get people engaged. As I said, also, there's a number, I think 14 or 15 different associations now, not to mention other, construction related organizations that we've started kind of creating that partnership with. We're introducing a construction manager role, which is really more like a team captain. Again, these are high schoolers, so they can't go full blast. But partnering with CMAA NorCal and CMAA Southern California Construction Managers Association of America. With that, we've partnered locally with our engineers SEOC organization and civil engineers and our local chapter of American Institute of Architects. So like I said, we really spell our name PARTNER. If someone's interested, we'll figure out a way to make it happen, as long as it stays about the mission of the kids and introducing them to the opportunities in the built environment.
Talk to us a little bit about the Women in Construction conference? Is that a completely separate thing, or is that also geared to high schoolers?
So it is growing to be more for high schoolers as well. During COVID, that was offered online and was much smaller. We were able to hold that in person. Again, talking about partnerships, right? Our local chapter of Design Build Institute of America and Society of Marketing Professionals, there are about 8 of us that came together to co-host that. But the way that we looked at it is there's the recruitment opportunity to get kids into the built environment, and then there's the retention that we also have been paying too much, success to. And so we locally have a Next Young Professionals program. We're introducing a mentorship program with them so that once they get in, we can figure out and match them with someone that they can, ask those questions. How do I, how was it the right time, Matt, when you started your business, what about a family? What about bonding and insurance? What were the things in between that you didn't know about work-life balance? The generation coming in right now is very different than the generation that's in management. They also want to know, what are the projects that you're working on that allows me to give back to society? You talk to them about a cocktail reception or a social event after 5 p.m. and they're looking at you like, if this is work related, why isn't this during the work day? And so, figuring out those items. So we have the Next Young Professionals, and then women in construction has really been exploding. So, in the greater Northern California region, women make up 51% of the public, but make up, I think, about 46% of the workforce. And then your numbers start dropping pretty quickly, about 18% of architects, 15% of engineers, 10 to 12% when you consider office staff and safety managers, managerial and leadership. And then you get out in the field and it's down to 3 to 4%, depending upon the trade. So for us, we wanted to look at inclusion and how do we say, what are we doing as an industry to be inclusive to all people that could potentially be working for us? And there are a lot of right people that have really invested into diversity, equity, and inclusion because they see the benefits and that it's purely the right thing to do. Companies that have a focus on DEI tend to have higher returns, from several of the articles I've been reading. And so the question was, how do we look at ourselves and say, how do we invite more women into construction? It's in many of the trades still as labor intensive as it was a generation ago, but there's been a lot of technological advancement where there are on par, physical requirements, if you will, that can easily be met. So we said, let's really look at inclusion and say, what can we do as an industry? And I think we'll have probably about 1,000 people attend that conference this year. Just a couple interesting stats, and if someone has an updated one, please let me know, because I would love to find this updated one. But in 2016, there were more Fortune 500 company CEOs named John than there were female Fortune 500 company CEOs. I mean, that just was kind of a startling statistic to me. And I think on the last ENR report, you had to go down to maybe like 150 or so before you found a female that was a leader within the construction industry. Principal, president, CEO of the company, the chief decision maker. And of course, that's by size. There's a lot of phenomenal female CEOs and presidents out there, but by size. So the question is, if we're going to start making change within our industry, you have to have everyone at the table. You have to have the change makers at the table that can have these conversations. So about 20% of the people that attended last year were men. And it was really interesting to be able to have some of those conversations about how do we actually make change happen. We don't want to have a conference for the sake of having a conference to make people feel good about themselves. We want to say, how can we walk out of this with hard tasks at hand that we can go ahead and measure some of those changes. I would say we've marginally, it's going to take time, but we've had some marginal impact on that. But I'm excited to hear the stories afterwards from people that say, oh my gosh, I was, between COVID, I was drawn down, or between a conversation I had, or, something's going on at work, I was feeling the burnout, and this just, really re-inspired me to go to the next level. So that's really, again, the recruitment. We think we've honed in pretty well on that. Now it's really about the retention as well. Again, partnership, that's the way that it works. Everyone needs to, if someone's in the built environment, we got to keep them. And what do we need to do if they're considering leaving?
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. Well, so on the bringing more people into the industry, right? So we've got, like, if you want more women into construction and really even on the A&E side of the house, again, being an engineer, like, it was 20% of women, in engineering schools. So you're only going to ever have, at the top end, 20%, because that's what comes in the bottom, top of funnel, if you will, for the rest of it. And then to keep them in the industry, which, there's enough guys that quit and burn out in construction as it is. So it's, the recruitment and bringing everybody in on the front side to show that, hey, construction's a, big wide world. Same with architecture, engineering, that, hey, this is an opportunity to be a part of an industry. That's where it starts. You can't fix the bottom end of that if you don't have, right. Like you can't ever ask for 50-50, men, women, if you don't have 50% coming in, to the base of the organization. And then obviously it takes, however long to change that through, it's going to take a decade or more to get them to be leadership within a firm. You got college, then 10 years in the field.
And I've met a lot of women along the way and having these discussions that have been fighting for that since 1960, 1970. So they'll tell you it's a long process. I will say it has been, again, trying to find some good that came out of COVID. The number of firms on the design side now that have been able to realize the work from home policies that are available, or the flexibility that's available there. Just the aspect of family raising, and when, license requirements come in those times of life periods, and how that lines up, I think has been a large reason why there are not more women on the design side. But now you're seeing a more accepting, it's still not there, but my understanding from a lot of the conversations I've had is it is a much more accepting industry than it was. But again, still has a long way to go. But again, that's one of those, everyone's in it together, everyone's going to succeed or fail. So how do we bring more people in? Because I haven't heard anyone say, oh yeah, they have plenty of applicants for every job they post.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, just from the design side, the work hours can be quite insane to meet deadlines. We're seeing that more and more on the construction side too, with not enough people really in the industry. And then to meet some of these pretty insane deadlines that owners request, and we bend over backwards to meet them. But that's I think been historically one of the big things for on the design side, is just the ridiculous amount of hours that get put into these projects to get them out the door, to meet all the code requirements and everything, to deliver them. And then you mentioned licensure for architects, went from 3-4 tests to now they have to take 7 or 8 to get licensed. And that's after working and all the hours that they have to do. I mean, to be an architect in the US is some of the most strict standards, for a licensure perspective. I think there's, as much, if not more, than some MDs to be a licensed architect and keep up with all the continuing ed and everything else. I mean, engineering isn't as bad. We got 2 tests to take to be a PE, but yeah, like from an architecture standpoint, it's pretty insane, the licensure requirements that they have to go through. So that's, for what it is on the design side, I think that keeps a lot of people out. And then, obviously I think it does help to be remote for a lot of things, and helping, ease some of that burden. But historically, even 20 years ago, you were doing drawings by hand. It's kind of hard to do remotely.
Right.
Yeah, I think as tech continues to pervade into the construction industry in general, it's just going to help that, help everyone kind of be able to work. Now, in my world, we can't work from home, or my people can't really work from home. You can't swing a hammer and hit a nail somewhere else. So you still have the on-site capabilities and requirements, but I think it at least helps kind of ease up the barrier to entry.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, you're seeing a lot of equity questions, right? If you work for the same company, but one job's an office job and the other job's a field job, is it fair, or is it equitable that the person that's in the office that can do part of their job at home, that, they are able to take advantage of that situation? So I don't want to open up a can of worms or Pandora's box. I just know that's a question that has been circulating a lot recently, especially on the construction side right now.
Oh, it absolutely. I think it's been kind of age old, because even back when I worked for another firm, they had some program where between Memorial Day and Labor Day, all the office staff would get to leave at noon on Fridays. Well, you can't shut down a job site. And so you had that same kind of that dichotomy there of, okay, how is this fair that our guys out in the field that are, sweating and grinding all day, they got to stay till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whenever, but all of the suits are leaving and going and playing golf. And, we, at that firm, we found equitable ways to kind of fair it out a little bit and, through days off or other things. But
I will say, if it was a charitable golf tournament, though, we're all about that one. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So Jordan, one question we ask everybody that comes on the show, we're really big into not just discussing problems, but also tactical solutions to how to solve those. I kind of have a feeling I know what your answer to the question is going to be, but in your mind, what do you see is the biggest problem the industry faces? And if it is really labor and getting youth involved, what is the biggest problem you see to getting kids interested in the trades, and how do we go about fixing that? What is the solution?
Yeah, I mean, it's labor, right? You can't talk to anyone without that aspect. But I think the cause of that is messaging. If every person that was in the built environment took with them the pride of what they do and shared that with everyone that was around them, I think that we would be a much better place. And I'm not sure why we allowed college to really run away and create that idea that you go to college or you didn't make it. And so to me, again, it's that messaging. If everyone that's in the industry goes out and talks to 5 people in the next week that aren't in the industry and shares with them why they're proud about what they're doing, that's a quick and easy item. Now, is that going to create rapid change? No, not. There's systemic issues, right, that we need to really dive into and have some bigger things there. But to me, that's the most basic thing that everyone can do that would make a transformative change on the perception of what construction is. And when you see the guy that's driving down the street in the Lamborghini, that could be the superintendent that's building your kid's new school down the street as well. So there's that aspect of it. And the second piece to it is, how do we collectively work together to be able to get into the school system and introduce kids to opportunities that they're not going to be able to experience otherwise? Because if they never experience what the opportunity is to be an architect, an engineer, contractor, and they don't have that family or friend that's cheering them on or providing that opportunity, they're not going to go down that road. So, I slightly off, but I remember there was one young student that here in Sacramento, when I was with Boys and Girls Club, where her community was, she lived, I don't know, maybe 10 blocks outside of the downtown core, but far enough that when she went to one of the downtown club sites, she asked if she was in Los Angeles because she had never traveled that far from her house before, right? So it's about those experiences. How do we introduce? How do we engage? If we can introduce and engage, I think it will be, good. We'll be in a much better set, but how do we coalesce? How do we take Matt, and say, okay, what's your availability? And are you speaking to kids the right way? Or is there an organization locally that you can help participate with that can be that conduit and really spend the time with them and then get them pipeline to your.
Uh-oh, I think we may have lost Jordan right at the end, but to echo his point, I think it's great commentary. I mean, it's how you eat an elephant, right? Is one bite at a time. It's not going to be massive shifts of change. It's the small conversations. It's the messaging, it's bit by bit. And we can all do our part to kind of push that and help out.
Constant improvement. I mean, again, we can't show people that construction is a great place to be if we don't go out and have the conversations, talk to people, do our part to bring more and more people into the industry. At the end of the day, if people don't know, then they don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's whatever. We talk about this a ton, and I think Jordan brought a very interesting perspective to it before his connection crapped out. It's neat to see a foundation really doing what you and I talk about so often. And I'm honest, I didn't know there was one. And maybe that's my being naive and not looking for it. Maybe there's one out here that I don't know about. So I've got some ideas in my head, and I'll certainly be tagging back with Jordan and seeing, what we can do to, pull that train out to the Midwest and what we can do here locally.
Well, and this just goes to show, right, that even those of us that are in this trying to get better, do more, all that kind of stuff, that we always miss something, or you don't know what you don't know. So for everybody out there, I guess search, do your part, find it, at least have conversations in your community. And that's what we can do. And if we all do that collectively, we're doing our part here with the show, and getting out in our communities to talk about construction and how great of an industry it is. So if we all do that, have 5 conversations a week, we're gonna really have some massive improvement over a fairly short period of time in the next 5-10 years.
Absolutely. So guys, we'll post all of Jordan's info, his links, and his social media on the show notes when this drops. Do your part, help us out. This episode especially, give us a share, give us a like, spread it around. This is important work that the Construction Industry Education Foundation is taking on, and it's furthering what Dylan and I are pushing for. And if you're in, around, or near the construction industry, that this is much needed work, and it's a much bigger problem than one person can solve. So help us out, help us do that, and get it out there for us.
With that, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being a part of the construction community and doing your part to help, build a great America, or wherever your communities are in the world. So again, thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you right back here next week.